and the forest from the longest epic poem of the world, the Mahabharata. Before we start, a little about the Mahabharata. The author of Mahabharata is Sage Vyas. Interestingly, he is also a character in this epic poem. The story, like all ancient stories, was transmitted through the generations through the oral traditions. The Mahabharata is said to have been composed around the 4th century BCE and was written down much, much later. When stories are told and retold, modifications are made to the existing story. A tweak here and a tweak there, some deletion, some addition. In 1917, the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, based in Pune in Maharashtra, India, decided to bring out the critical edition of the Mahabharata. This was going to be a mega project and it took decades to get done. It was in 1966 that the critical edition was finally brought out. The authors and their teams had consulted 1258 versions of the Mahabharata. The purpose was to identify the story that must have formed the original core. Everything else was relegated to the footnotes and appendices. This edition ran into 19 volumes. More recently, there have been plans to revise the critical edition, as even that edition is said to not have consulted many other versions of the Mahabharata that were not available to the authors back then. These include the Nepali version, the Sindh version that does not have Krishna. Now that's going to be interesting, a Mahabharata without Krishna. And of course, there were many other versions that could not be consulted by the authors back then. Let us now come to the story of Khandava Vana. It so happened that Arjun and Krishna had come out for a picnic with the other relatives on the banks of river Yamuna. As the two broke off from the main group and were taking a stroll along the banks, they saw a man who looked lean and extremely weak. The two feared that the man would die of starvation and inquired if they could get him something to eat. The man readily agreed and revealed that he was Agni, the fire god, and that he wished to devour the entire forest, the Khandava Vana, which was situated to the west of river Yamuna. This put Arjun and Krishna in a bit of fix, but the word had been given. They had to ensure that the man had had his fill. Agni had been attempting to ravage the forest but was prevented from doing the same by the serpent king Takshak, who guarded the forest, and by Indra, who was the god of thunder and rain. Every time Agni tried to consume the forest, Indra would make it rain and douse the attempt. In another version of the story, the man who approached Arjun and Krishna was the fire god, Agni, in the guise of a Brahmin, and he was suffering from dyspepsia. The only meal that could cure him of this was the Khandava Vana with all its trees and beasts. For centuries, when prayers were made to Agni, ghee or clarified butter was offered to the deity. This had made him suffer indigestion, and Brahma, the all-knowing god, had suggested to him a diet of the Khandava Vana in its entirety, with all of the vegetation and all of its inhabitant. He had assured Agni that this was sure to cure him of his ailment. Now Arjun and Krishna were eager to help but had no means. How would they ensure that the beasts did not escape? How would they ensure that the rain god was indeed flouted? Agni was quick to facilitate the granting of weapons to both of them through Varun, who was the god of the seas. The Gandiv bow was given to Arjun. He was given 2 quivers with an unceasing supply of magical arrows, and Krishna was given the Sudarshan Chakra, the discus that Agni said he was holding in trust for Krishna anyway, and that now was the time to give it to Krishna. Agni also gave the two a white chariot with 4 horses. This gave them immense mobility. As Agni raged, the beasts of the forest tried to escape. They flew, they ran, and Arjun's arrows caught them all. They were shot and fell into the forest. There was consternation in the heavens, and Indra decided to intervene. Indra was furious that his son Arjun was siding with Agni and wreaking such havoc in the forest. Indra sent his favorite rain clouds, Pushkal and Avartak. Yes, friends, The rain clouds had names too. Arjun shot so many arrows heavenwards that the arrows became a fort, and not a drop of rain could penetrate this wall and come down. And then the defensive wall of arrows broke and the rains lashed down. Once again, Arjun released a slew of arrows that tore through the clouds. The sun shone again and the fire raged fiercely. Many gods, like Varun, the god of the ocean, the god of death Yama, Ashwins, the twin deities of medicine, even Surya, the sun god, joined Indra to vanquish Arjun and Krishna. But the two were invincible that day, and the flames of Agni leapt higher and higher. It so happened that Takshak, the king of serpents who ruled the forest, was away at Kurukshetra that day. His wife, the serpent queen, and their son Avasena were in the forest. The serpent queen came to the defense of her son, but Arjun's arrows killed her. Just at this point, Indra made the winds rage, and Arjun fell unconscious for a while. It was at this time that Avasena slithered away to safety. The serpent queen had the satisfaction of seeing her son slip away just before she died. The forest burned for 15 days. Agni, having consumed all that the forest had to offer, was satisfied and his indigestion was cured. Only 6 creatures came out of the forest alive. They were Avasena, Maya, the Asur who was an architect, and 4 Saranga birds or herons. When Maya tried to escape and approached Arjun and Krishna, Krishna had released his Sudarshan Chakra to slay him. But Arjun intervened in time and saved his life. In gratitude, Maya built the Pandavas a grand palace in this land cleared of all forest, which came to be known as Khandava Vana. Indra, although was on the opposing side and the vanquished side during the time of the burning of the Khandava forest, was pleased by his son Arjun's prowess. After the war, he offered Arjun a boon, and Arjun asked for Indra's arsenal. This Indra granted Arjun, but told him that he shall have access to the same once Shiva was pleased with Arjun. So the burning of the Khandava forest is only one episode in this phenomenal tale. This particular segment, friends, boils down to the clearing of land for human settlement. This was willful burning of forest to clear tracts for humans to settle down, demonstrating the march of civilization making its way into the Gangetic plains and beyond. More recently, such an attempt to reclaim land from forest for agriculture and pasture was witnessed in Brazil. Fires were set up in the Amazon and they raged for months. The world condemned this as an act of ecocide. True that given the rate of destruction of our ecosystem, this was to wreak unprecedented damage to the environment. And yet, isn't it fascinating that the method they were adopting was exactly what the heroes of the Mahabharata had adopted millennia ago, albeit through a beautiful tale of human emotions and actions. That's all for today. Until another time.